Hi internet, welcome to week 3 of NaNoWriMo. I haven't written yet today, but I really need to talk to you about my world. As a quick thing, this is like more of a story and a world update than it is writing, so here's the time caption if you don't care about me talking about this and just want to hear about the rest of my writing for this week. But I'm really interested in it and I'm going to talk to you about it so that I can edit it later and be reminded. I guess I can start at, I started creating this little world when I was like 14 and I started reading fan fiction and I started reading The Sims 2 Exchange and I got interested in vampires and I got interested in Twilight vampires before I knew they were Twilight vampires due to The Sims 2 Exchange and kind of like a fan fiction-y vibe that a story had, but it was more an inspired by. I started creating something from that world and this story is my baby. It started off kind of like a Cinderella retelling vibe and it has taken off. It has gone somewhere completely different. I have every version of this story and whenever I go back and I read especially the original and what it has become are so different. Even the first like 5 couple of versions, because I was really not sure what I was doing or anything. I had any concrete idea of story or anything. But over the years, like I fell in love with it and I evolved it and it was definitely vampires and then I was removing vampires because fuck vampires. And then one day I decided I was going to make my own species of things. Here's the easiest way to describe it. What I did. I wanted to have vampires without having vampires. I didn't want to call them vampires, but I wanted blood-sucking beings. I also wanted them to have like immortality and strength and some other vampire traits, but I didn't want the sun to be in effect and I didn't want them to glitter. I wanted to have a world where there were, say, werewolves. There weren't werewolves, they were more like transforming things. And still the sanguines and, sorry, my vampires and werewolves didn't get along, but that wasn't a main plot point in the story. It was just like a species evolution sort of deal. I ended up making a scientific classification. I have gone through over the years, kind of like just slowly honing it. I'd come up with these different stories about these different sort of things that I want to play with and magic and stuff, and then elemental magic and then fae, and it all kind of worked itself into its own world and I just watched it and cultivated it. This is my scientific classification because at heart I am still a nerd and I love biology, but not enough to be passionate about it, just enough for it to, you know, be a hobby every now and again. The way that I've decided to structure this is I took inspiration from, I think it was like dog breeds and things like that, where you have, because you have like orders and suborders and you get all the way down to species and we're Homo sapiens, and then I was like, what if there's subspecies? And like humans don't know about the subspecies of Homo sapiens, but the original, like, you want to be like the most of the Homo sapien is like fae. That is the purest form. And then shit happened mythology wise that caused all these different other ones to be. So I've got like different named ones in Latin and that's what they are now. There is only two species that aren't Latin. One of them is fae. The fae have a couple of different names that I've been playing around with getting it into Latin, but I default to fae because I haven't really focused on them. And there is a story where they're not the main focus, but I have to work out what the fuck to call them. The closest I can think of is that they're fae, because fae are perfect. And another one is Dutch or Germanic, something like that. And that's because it's one of the newer species, and by newer I mean 1400s, because I came across this thing with this word and I was like, oh my god, I'm so inspired. But what are they, Guchalas? I would have to get into a Dutch German accent to say it right, I know that, and I'm saying it 100% wrong. But they have more of a like inherited magic and memory. I kind of was inspired by Grimm at one stage, but these guys were forming around and then I found Grimm and then I was like, oh my god, this so works with them, on how he inherits the ability to see certain things and stuff, but it's still very different. Anyway, I have had many all that is saying that with this original story, I've had many issues. I know the core of the story. I know my main character inside and out. I love her. She is very problematic, but also a strong, independent woman. I know her twin sister. I like to play with twins sometimes, and like, it's very hard for me to leave them as the only twins in my universe. But I have to, otherwise I'd have so many twins. I love the idea of twins so often. I hope to God I never have twins, but also if I have twins, that's fine. Just because so much can be played with when it comes to fantasy and mythology and twins. That's why I really like it. Also, the juxtaposition of a person, if like, anyway, this story, it has changed into different things, but I keep having an issue with the antagonist. I know the core story, but I keep being like, but why the fuck is the antagonist there? Like, I know why he's there, but like, why is he even bothering? Like, why does he have this deep-seated hatred for Thingy? Like, I had a really big revelation with that a couple of years ago, and that was great. But I haven't been able to, I just haven't been in the right space to write it. It's a story that I know one day I'm going to be able to write and tell perfectly, but for now, I'm not in the place where I can write it because I needed to really world build, and I have done a lot of world building, by the way, but there's issues with it. And I have so many other stories in this world that like, as I have worked on these and outlined them or written little bits of them, it's like informed the world more, which has ultimately informed this story. And I was just thinking earlier, I was like, what? I know what I want to write next, but what do I want to write after that? Because really everything from there is very modern. And then I was thinking about, well, you do know, I'm going to tell you, Declan's. Declan is like the love interest in the story that I've been working on for a long time. Although it's more complicated than that. And that's why there's a lot of issues with it. And he's really the reason why the antagonist is in the story. Because long game, the antagonist plays the long game. And I was like, what if, because he has like a great story, what if we told his story? And like, it could be novellas, I don't care. I could write properly, not just like the brief summary of his life. I could write like a story of his life, and like, hell, Act 1 could just purely be when he was changed. And then Act 2 and Act 3 could be maybe him learning a little bit, Act 2. And then like, eventually we start a whole new act structure of what happened with the antagonist. And that would be really interesting, and that would also help take us through the centuries. Because he, I forget which year he was born, it changed from 1600s to 1800s and then changed back, and then I haven't decided yet. Probably 1800s. I like 1800s more. And he's a character I really enjoy, so I could get that written and then naturally fall into the story that I want to write. And just like a wave of shit overtook me with this. All of a sudden, I realized like, wait, so I know Declan, an antagonist whose name has changed about 4 times. Declan's name has changed about 6 times, but that's beside the point. His name is never changing again. I like it, it's staying there. That's his name, that's it, that's it. That's like the protagonist of that story. Well, her name is cemented, and so is her sister's name. What if they were friends once? And like, what if the Goochella, like, he captured one and then he ended up setting it free, and that's why he's got a whole thing, because I already made a mythology around why they are so often killed and what the belief is around their blood and blood magic around their blood. Also, every type has come from, they originally there was like a rebellion of things, and then they were all like punished and had things stripped from them, and based on what they had done is what was stripped for them, or what was that. There are also a few other ways that they say it goes, but whatever. And I was like, I still haven't worked out why the Goochella are there. And I was like, you know what, I haven't worked out when the marked turn up either, which is a different type. And they're more like your balancing agents of everything. And I was like, wait, so we're working on, at the start of the story is when magic slowly sneaking into the bloodlines of the normal humans and the sanguines. Not the sanguines, the sapiens. So like, that's happening now as I'm writing my current story, and will continue to happen through the generations. And I see more like tribes as, say, the magic wielders have always lived the closest to sapiens, and they've been integrating more with them, and that continues on for generations because they're the first ones that really like broke down a lot of things. And later on all the other ones started to live with them too. It's a whole thing. I'd have to explain it all and I don't have time. But what if the Mark and the Coachella were introduced at about the same time, which would make sense? Or the Mark could have come after and the Coachella were meant to be the original Mark. It just didn't work. Because like, if I was going to be like, I need balances in the world, these two both have the capabilities, it would be great. Maybe not everyone agreed on what exactly they needed to be the balancing agent. So they sent them both out to see which one would work best. And it turns out this one works real great and this one's real shit. But also real great. And it just like helped me tie everything together that little bit closer and that little bit more, and I was so happy. I'm just so happy. Okay? Insanely happy. And all of a sudden, like, I'm like, well, that would help if I like tackle Declan's story next. Then I could write Fallen X, I could not publish Declan's story, I don't care. But it at least gives me that actual foundation where I can write that story whenever I'm ready to write that story. Because there are a couple of them that, I have a list of stories. Yeah, there are a couple of them that could like take place at any point in time. One of them, which is a magic one, which is my favorite, could really take place in this century or last. There are a couple that play with humans getting more magic in their bloodline, and those I have always seen as more modern day. Like a lot of it is urban fantasy at that point as it gets further on. But it makes sense to me that like I'd be able to have these humans that have more to do with these mythical beings, because the bloodlines are getting so mixed nowadays and a lot of taboos are being pulled down and the world's getting so much smaller that like you can't just hide with a whole clan in the forest. It's not realistic. Sure, the Fae could probably do that. They probably have a whole estate. They're probably Scientology. I don't know what they are. Oh, what if we explain Scientology? I'm not explaining Scientology. Scientology is just craziness in humans. But still, you could like say that Scientology is a mythological thing, even though it's not. There's so many parts of even our world where we don't have answers that can be explored in fantasy. And there is one that kind of takes on a sci-fi appeal, which is 100 years in the future. Or not 100 years in the future, just in the future. And that is one of my first NaNoWriMo novels. I love it. It involves blood, and I have a lot of things with blood. Even this story revolves around blood magic, and then Sanguine's like consume blood, and I figure like that has something to do with the use of blood magic back in the day, and before the death goddess who introduced it was killed. That's why they have to consume blood, to maintain some of their abilities and stuff, whatever. Anyway, so that's what clicked in today, and now you can watch the rest of these videos of me catching you up on how much I wrote this week. I don't want to write it right now. I want to write my story, and I keep being tempted to do more outlining on the next story, so I might like write a few things down here and there because that's making more sense and becoming more clear to me while doing this. But yeah, apparently I'm creating my entire own world, and I'm happy with that. Hi internet, so it's the 24th of November and I haven't recorded any videos for this week. I feel like I might have recorded one on Monday about my ramblings and thoughts at that stage, but not since. And there is plenty of reason for that. I haven't had great writing days this week, but I'm still close to the nano targets, so it's fine. We're all good. I just haven't been feeling it. I'll get into my numbers and then I'll talk about the feeling it. What day did this week start on? Wait, 16th was a Friday, 19th was Monday. I wrote 317 words, taking Nano up to 31,737 and overall to like 46,930. The reason Monday was so shitty was because I was tired, and I edited that day as well and I recorded, so I more or less sat down just to say I'd written words and wrote 300 words, so that's a bonus. It's just a bonus. The 20th I wrote 353 words. Yeah, so Nano just went up to 32,089 words. Again, it was a case of I didn't have the fucking time and I felt like tired. I think I worked like both days and then had stuff to do. Therefore I sat down for like half an hour before I went to bed. Probably not that long, and wrote 300 words. The 21st, which would have been Wednesday, I like this word, I think. Wednesday. How many times can I fucking say Wednesday? So the 21st, which was Wednesday, I got back on my shit and I wrote 1,678 words. I feel like I did something that day too, that I sat down and forced myself to write. I might have taken mum somewhere, I don't know. That took me up to 30,763 words for Nano, and I'm like wrote my minimum for the day. I was happy. Thursday the 22nd of November, I wrote 1,941 words, taken Nano up to 35,708 words, and the entire manuscript up to 50,904 words. This is where I started to realize my problem, that I was really struggling to write block 4 Thursday. I finished a little earlier than I had been finishing, but then I went and picked up an embroidery machine from my mother that she got cheap off Facebook, and it's amazing. It's fantastic so far. She's enjoying it, I'm enjoying it. Well worth wasting 2 hours. But I wrote and I got over my daily minimum. Then yesterday, I was just a lazy shit that didn't want to write because I was experiencing the problems. But I still managed to write 1,868 words, taking it up to 76, and 25,722 words, which is where I was left off today. I believe I've written 900 words today. I can't remember, it's at my computer. I haven't written it down yet. The problem I've been having is that block 4 is like my transition period of she's left the castle, shit hasn't gone down yet at the camp. It's more of a playing with a couple of the relationships in the story and her recovering. I was getting bored and I was doing that thing where I write a lot, but it isn't great, and I kind of keep writing and I'm chronologically like writing out the whole day, like there can't be any gaps, and there was a lot of conversations with info dumping, but I realized that her grandfather's a warlock, which is a beneficus in this story. So in my little world, I have a lot of different species, and magic has 3 different classifications. I've also worked out my history better in this week. So you win some, you lose some. And other stories I've worked out stuff for as well. I think that happened a lot on Monday. Okay, so you've got Magus is the Latin word for magic, I think. And that's kind of just an overall broad magic. Still have their ability to perform magic, but they're bound to mortal bodies, so they can't do a lot of magic, or they'll have familiars but they won't be able to do like some of the awesome spells. Then you've got Beneficus, which is Latin for warlock, I think, and they're immortal, so they have a shit ton more magic, they're rare, and in both these groups you have 3 different types of magic that they can do: light, dark, and the grey. The middle area. The grey are obviously the most powerful and the most feared, so they are killed a lot in the later stories. In this one, it's not too much of a thing, because the way I view it is like, she's like dark. The thing that I realized I love in this story is my antagonist ends up being very dark, and my protagonist also has dark magic, but is the good side of the dark magic, so he has it for like power. She uses it for other stuff, because I want to show throughout them that, like, yes, there's this white, grey and black magic, or good, bad and middle magic, but it doesn't actually reflect on the people. And a lot of the times the white magicians are real bad because they're like blood purists, and like, yeah, the dark can be real intense, but they're also like used to being crucified for their dark magic. Anyway, still not really a thing at this point in time. But because magic is still really rare, it's going through the bloodlines, and magicians are being killed off for blood magic still, which sometimes I struggle with the idea of blood magic and I need to change the name of it, but sometimes I'm just like, yes, this makes sense. I was like, always the earth magic came from my mother's side as well, and I was kind of like, how can she have earth magic and like this dark magic, and how can she stand to have an ethereal being inside of her? Well, we already knew something that her mother did to help protect her from the ethereal being inside of it. But I was like, it would just make sense if she had a close relation to magic and the Inclinos, which are element manipulators. So like, that's her grandparents. Her grandmother's dead. Her grandfather isn't, he's alive, and that was like the perfect conduit for telling her sister she was her sister. Also a great place for her to run off to and heal real fast for me, because she's been healing for a while and I'm fucking over it. It's just going to be changed. I have accepted the block 4 is a complete rewrite in my second draft. Block 4 is more like world and character building and a lot of discovery writing. And because of that, it's not a serious block. I tried to write it as a serious block. I tried to just grit my teeth and get through it, and it's not having what I want. And after I've like written bits of it, I'm all of a sudden like, oh, I should edit. And this draft is me letting go of my need to edit, because every other time I have tried to write and finish a book, I've edited as I've gone, because I have this problem where I hit a point where I do a heap of discovery writing, which is real shitty, and a lot of info dumping. Previously I would have gone back and started editing already, but I'm not doing that. I'm finishing this fucking story, and then I'm editing this fucking story after I study a few things about craft so I understand a few things better. But I have been listening to audiobooks which are in third person and first person. One of them doesn't count because she's like past tense third person, and I'm not sure how I want to do my third person yet. But that's kind of helping give me ideas, and it's already helping with the writing in some ways. That's just something. I've also knocked off a heap of books on my bookshelf that I'm like, you're getting studied with a highlighter soon, baby. You're gonna get highlighted. So yeah, still plan is to write first draft, break of study, second draft. I don't know how long it's gonna take. Anyway, I've kind of finished off block 4, not writing the last chapter properly because I was fucking around with shit. I'm starting on block 5 because that's where something exciting and world-changing happens and kind of like solidifies her need to learn more about her magic and shit. Also, I finally explained like why her and this other guy always have books around with them, and that's because they have books of shadow. They're magic books, they're spellcasting books. There's a whole theory behind that as well, and what happened to her sister's one and everything. So just to make life a little easier for me, even this chapter that I've started writing, I have it mapped out in my mind how the start of it's going to go in the flirtation. And that was great. And I literally skipped a few paragraphs. I've skipped events that happen in this chapter because I know them so well, and they're not going to be hard to write when I sit down and write them, but I'm not in the mood today. And then I started writing like the scene where stuff goes, the part where it all starts going to hell, and I all of a sudden had all the questions of like, oh shit, I didn't think about this clearly. And that's being resolved / I am going to edit so hard. I want to edit. I think this might be a bit of a juxtaposition between Monday and today. Yeah, at this point, especially for the last week of Nano coming up, my philosophy is write as fucking much as I can. If I need to skip something, I'm going to skip it. I'm going to write in brackets when I need to be there, and I'm going to continue because I know what needs to be there. I'm just not in the mood to write it or something like that. If I am in the mood to write it, I'll go back, I'll do that. If I need to do discovery writing for this chapter and it is what this chapter is now, that's what that chapter is going to be. I can't keep being so controlled until I'm allowed to go back and edit everything, because once the story's constructed, it's so much easier for me to go back and edit because I have all the answers and I can thread it in as I need to. Whereas before, I'd think of something new and I'd want to thread it back from the start, and that's just what I'm not allowing myself to do. It's calculated and it needs to be. How are you guys going so far? I guess I'll update you tomorrow. Tomorrow's a day and the last day of this week. I have a headache today too. That doesn't help. My mood's just all over the place. Just so we're clear, I kind of want to hit a 10k weekend. I also want to finish this draft this weekend. Hi internet, it's the 25th, which is Sunday. Let's get down to what I wrote yesterday and then we'll get into everything else. Yesterday, I wrote 3,761 words, taking me up to 41,337 in nano terms. 56,533. Today I'm now sitting on 44,566 nano-wise because I've written 3,209. I don't know how. I have written over 3,000 words in 2 days. I just have. Okay, I do know how. I'm currently on block 16. I'm about chapter 16 even. Block 6, I'm pretty sure, which is the last block in Act 2, and I am going to finish that today. It's not going to be pretty and it's not going to be like real written out because I need world building to put into there, and the next 2 chapters are fun, and the last one of this act is where she gets to kill someone. a lot of people. One of our men nearly dies, and one might die. I've had like a lot of emotionally charged chapters that I've just had to do, like someone was stolen and stuff, and now she's back, so that's all fine. But that was a fun one to write in the way where I'm finding I'm more hitting off how I'm seeing it in my mind, and it does need better, bigger writing. But that's for draft 2. Draft 2 is where I'm fixing everything. I've just come to the realization that right now I can't write the end of this book the way I want to write it completely. Like there are some chapters and paragraphs that just aren't gonna be able to be written prettily the way I want to write them right now because I'm not in the mood. And as I'm having ideas now of just notes that I want to keep, I'm utilizing this blank page and just putting notes on like things that I need to remember, or putting it in the actual chapter, generally in brackets. Main reason is because I want to finish this draft. I've had so many things I've realized, and I need to see how the story ends so that I can go back to the start and restart it all again. I've realized I'm introducing mating, like mates into this, which yeah, is exactly what it sounds like. They come from faith, so, and I love mates. It's added another like layer to a different two people that I've been having to deal with, and it just helps. Okay, it helps a lot. So scene that I just wrote, I've had the vision for what she was going to do for ages, and the next 2 chapters have played out really well in my head before. But the thing that I never considered before was how is it gonna have her like relive this terrible memory? And she relived the terrible memory there and like suffered through it and channeled that emotion into things, which really helped, which will help with the rest of the story. I can see the next chapter not having a lot of actual writing in it, just stop points of what I thoroughly need in it, because there's certain things that like I'll need to cover later that I can't cover right now because I don't know what I'll need. If that makes sense. Discovery writing is a pain in my butt, but I've just completely like taken all control out of me, and I'm just writing. I really want to finish this book by the end of today. I also want to have a 10K weekend. Part of me wants to start my revision the second that I finish this because I have so many thoughts in my head. I don't know if I'll be able to do that. I might just instead buy myself some video games and highlighters for a book, or start highlighting my book because I think I have highlighters there somewhere. Anyway, that's how I'm going today, and I'll talk to you guys later because I want to go write. I also want to go eat. I put on pizza so that I can eat it. Hi internet, it's Wednesday the 28th and I haven't updated you for Monday. I was gonna be like, what day was Sunday again? And then I saw my word count and I knew. Okay, so overall the weekend was fantastic. I ended up writing 3,761 words on Saturday, which I think I told you guys, and then Sunday I wrote 4,375 words, which took me up to 45,722 words for Nano and 6,908 words for the entire novel. I was on a roll on both days, but a weird roll of just getting it out of the way, not really an inspired roll. I did get to write like a real emotional bit, which was real entertaining. Also, if you can tell, I have finished Act 2 and I'm on Act 3. None of that. Haven't done a lot. But I'll update you on this week in next week's video, which is all very confusing. Very, very confusing. Yeah, that's it really. The weekend was bomb. I'm kind of at that stage was losing a lot of interest and just wanted to get the shit done, and then I hit block 3 and but I'll tell you about that in this week's video because today has been the turnaround day. Thankfully I needed it. Okay, bye.